Hey guys, and welcome to Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I said Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Welcome to Cinema Toast Crunch, where we take a bite out of the movies that we saw in screen studies. I'm Jack Wallace, your paragon of dumb catchphrases, and someone who actually had cereal this time around. And I still have late night CVS trips. To my left, we have Jacob Berman, as per usual.
Hello.
What do you have for breakfast, Jacob?
I didn't make it to breakfast, so I'm still eating this bag of potato chips. So yeah.
Breakfast of, breakfast of champions. Below
Yes.
me, we have right below me, we have Georgie Larkov. What do you have for breakfast?
I would say I had fried chicken for breakfast,
Wow.
and I'm ashamed.
Don't be ashamed. That's
No,
an
that's
achievement and a
awesome.
half.
That's the way to do it.
To my diagonal, we have Ruth Mayan. What do
It's
you have, Ruth?
Ruth Mian. It's Ruth Mian.
I'm always gonna mess that up, okay?
You're always gonna
It's
mess
just
it
the
up.
fact of the matter.
I didn't eat breakfast, but right now I have a really stale,
Cheetos,
almost
nice.
finished bag of hot Cheetos. So like,
Most important meal of the day.
nutrients.
I'm worried about two of you. And right below me, we have, well, not right below me, but farthest below me, we have Sanvi, whose last name I still do not know. That speaks to me on an issue somehow. We'll figure that out later. What do you have for breakfast, Sanvi?
Well, I had a cup of coffee. That's it.
I worry about you guys.
We just have
Well-
college kids diets. It's
Yeah.
normal.
Your Jack's the only
God bless
that's making a
America.
normal breakfast.
And I didn't even get up for breakfast in time. I this is 12 p.m. cereal.
I just can't get up, period.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this week's movie.
Mhm.
Okay, so this week we're talking about the movie The Big Sick. And I especially love the movie because I love Kumail as a comedian, and also because there's a lot of South Asian representation. And so, brief synopsis, this movie is based on Kumail's real life love story with his wife Emily, and they wrote the script together, and it's like based on the struggles that they faced. And but also there's something I read that I found like really funny was I perceived this movie to be as a love story between Kumail and Emily's parents.
Mhm.
Good point.
And yeah, and another thing is like I really like how they tackle like cultural differences. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just need to point out, Jacob, what have you done?
I made my background a hospital bed because I thought that was funny.
On point for the movie.
Funny story.
Okay.
I remember seeing the trailers, seeing the advertisements for The Big Sick when I was way younger. And I think that's absolutely bloody lied to me. I think
The poster, yeah, the poster makes it look a lot happier.
no, yeah, not even just happier. It makes it look like it's just going to be about a family dinner, and the ads made it look like it was going to be about a family dinner. Or maybe my memory was warped because we fill in the gaps of our own memory, which is a flawed way of preserving anything. But I'm getting off topic.
This
No, I
isn't
think
Psych
that's
101. This is Screen 101.
No, I think talking about movie posters is relevant because of the idea of like there being like kind of a movie poster moment in every movie. That this one, the move, I don't think the poster is the best representation of the film, though there is movie poster-esque moments still.
Speaking of poster moments, let's do our prompt this week, that being talking about narrative. So we were assigned with the beat sheet, which gives us a detail of how almost all Hollywood movies work in their 3-act structure, which was very well detailed, I'll add. I know a lot of things that we eventually came to conclude were that we thought overall, on a very cursory glance, that this, as less of a, not necessarily linear, but less, it was structured, there's a word I'm looking for, a less rigidly structured film sort of went against, not even against, but deviated.
It kind of like felt episodic to me. Like it was a day in the life, but
Yes.
it's taken from this very specific part of Kumail's life of like sort of like what made you go from Chicago to New York.
Absolutely.
That contributes to the film's feeling of realness, I would say. It feels more genuine in that sense that it just feels like it's a slice from his life. It's like a slice of life movie, but also with its own tense moments.
I would say that it still follows a general 3-act structure. It's just the way its use of timing is very different because it's instead of like 25, 60, 15, it's closer to like 33, 33, 33, if that makes sense.
Oh no, absolutely.
It spends longer like you have like 40 minutes or so after
The third act begins.
you have 40 minutes of third act
Mhm.
when you find out she gets better. I thought that would be like towards the very end.
Oh, spoilers.
It's
I-
the use of
It's
compression.
film analysis. What do you mean spoiler on
You
I
know,
mean,
when
we
I
all
think
watched the
about
movie.
the third act, I was thinking more like that's where the South Asianness of the movie comes in. Because if you've ever watched a movie from any South Asian industry, you would know like they take the climax and they stretch it out so much, and you're like, we get it, we get the drama, but like be done with it. And like that somehow I felt towards the end because I was like, oh yeah, this is longer than I expected it to be.
Did you see RRR?
Yes,
That
I
movie
have
is
not.
insane.
I loved RRR.
That
It's
movie
the
is
most. It's like so camp,
over the
so
top.
like over the top, and in my opinion, that's exactly how the British Empire fell in India. A guy riding a tiger and a guy riding a motorcycle just take it down and make the entire thing explode, and bam, British Empire.
Yeah.
This way the British keep us tough.
Anyways, do we want to start with the opening image?
Yes, I feel like very quickly we should sort of just go over like what the hell beat sheet is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. It's a breakdown of narrative of 3-act narrative structured time code in 15 parts. Based off like having an inciting incident, midpoint, and second plot point, or like and the denouement, everything after the second plot point. It's basically a more expanded version of that, and that structure is kind often like hero's journey-esque as well.
I think the opening image really sets like the theme, like it like really sets us in the mood for what's happening because it like opens up even before we see Kumail. We see his past, we see his
Photos of
pictures
him,
from
yeah.
his childhood, we see Pakistan where he's originally from, and we see like the major thing is like how different he was growing up, and now all of a sudden he's in America and like he's doing stand-up about it.
Yeah,
Uber driver. Like in the beginning, I was like, why is he making so many outfit changes in his car? And I realized, oh yeah, he's an Uber driver.
Yeah, no. In the first 2 or 3 minutes, you get a lot. You get his where he's from, where he is now, what his occupation is, because you have like all the skyline and large shots of Chicago. You get to see him doing his job. You get to see him at a comedy club describing his past. So you get you get all of like the first act's settings where they're gonna be very quickly on, which is I think good filmmaking, being able to give your viewer
Like set the tone.
communicate.
It sets the stage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so I found this interesting, the idea that
Oh,
this isn't based off the movie, this is based off the beat sheet. I'll explain.
oh, oops. I thought you said interesting, and I was like, and I was
Yeah,
so
no.
ready. to say it,
Well,
but-
now you did.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Not that I like the idea that the theme is stated in the first like around the 5 minute mark of the movie, because that conceptually is really hard, like that for me to think about trying, like when you're trying to make a film, trying to have it 5 minutes in the like, yeah, I just said how there's a lot you can do in a few minutes, though having things thematically already be set up, that's definitely trickier, and you often won't realize it when watching it that happens. So does anyone have a take on what that is? Because the first the 5 minute mark is around like his first show at whatever comedy club he's at. Jack?
Well, I can say already what the inciting incident from that point is. At least what I believe is. I think it's the heckle. Which, by the way, just so we're all clear, not all heckles are negative. It's really just any time that someone interjects. A heckle can be positive. That's a reference. Misplaced reference. I regret making that reference.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good point for what the inciting incident could be. If you want to say that it's in the first 5 minutes, which could be a nod to how this film's setup is a little different. While yes, you generally get the inciting incident in like the first half of the first act. Here in the beat sheet it says, around the 12-minute mark is when you'll see it, and but the heckle is extremely early on.
And like I feel like it just sets everything up so well because they opted to show not tell. Like they show he's Pakistani and they show he wants to pursue a career in comedy. And they also show that it's not making him a lot of money. He's in an Uber. And they also show that he has to set up chairs for that slot in the comedy cafe for his gigs.
I think sorry, you can go.
I would just had a weird little tidbit that later on Kumail Nanjiani would also start another movie about him being an Uber driver, that being Stuber, which is a weird ass action film. And I think there's a reason we didn't go see it. But that's not the point I'm getting at. I just thought that's weird.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing.
It's that bizarre is all. But it makes sense to a certain degree.
As well. I think one thing that you see is the first set he does, or the first gig, he's doing the cheese bit, which you also see at the end. And
when he absolutely screws
clearly
it up.
Just a bit and shows how he's kind of struggling. At the end, he's doing you see him do the cheese bit again where he bombs at the other place, but by the end he's onto slightly newer material and starting to become funnier. So I think establishing him as kind of a mediocre comedian, I think is
he's also just like a rookie too.
Yeah, because I'm guessing that because everyone now knows Kumail as a great, it's weird saying a character's name. Like they didn't change any of the names, so it's like when I say
the movie is about him after all.
I know it's just strange because when I say Kumail, am I talking about the character or the real person? Because because everyone knows him now as a great comedian, he probably had to come up with some mediocre lines, like write like a certain bar of comedy that's not as good intentionally. I don't know. I think it's an interesting part of the process.
I think we get to see him progress throughout the movie because we have that other character that's his roommate who keeps repeating the same joke all the time.
Damn Chris.
Yeah, and even though, Kumail might not be the best comedian at the time, at least we see he's trying and he's trying to get more creative and he's moving up in the world.
And he's
But
also
it's tough.
supported by
You even see that like improvement with Chris, because like when you see him on stage, he gets more laughs, and I'm like, you go, Chris, you go.
which is funny because I notice a lot of time that CJ and Mary, who are played respectively by
Mhm.
Bo Burnham and
Very
Amy
successful
Bryant.
comedians.
Exactly. They
I love Bo
they don't
Burnham.
stagnate, but they sort of stay consistent,
Mhm.
which like they don't really get any more or less applause despite also sort of doing the same things. Which I think is a nice thing. Another little sub note that they all acknowledge they're engaging in horrible behavior when they're constantly trash talking each other off
Mhm.
stage behind their backs, and then they go over to Sam's bit where they're going, you know what, I'm gonna tell him his jokes aren't
That was
original.
my favorite.
They
No,
walk by
Yeah.
and say,
favorite.
hey, great
They
job,
say
man.
Sam.
We're so weak.
There,
People
at least
say,
there's
people say
self-aware.
Sam.
But that also just comes in at like a little after like the
Yeah,
cat
no, that is
inside.
later on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it helps to
Well-
highlight Kamel's dishonesty, which you see throughout the film.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like especially like within the setup, you get so much material just from that singular family dinner. They're talking about the girl who married a white guy and they get disowned, and he hacked into her Tumblr, and then like, he's like, and they're still shit talking him. So like it's the same like with his comedy career and his family. Like they're shit talking all these people behind their back, and like she's forcing him to like, hey, look who dropped in and stuff like that. And he's lost that connection with his religion, but he just chooses to hide all of it. And he just doesn't really say how he feels, because he feels like if he does anything else, it's gonna end up having him lose his family.
Going off of what
think-
Ruth had said before about like how the film like shows and not tell, I feel like that's very important about like the theme stating part, because it was not Kumail. It was, first of all, it was the whole family dinner scene, which I felt like was the one that like set the tone of what's going on. Because when the mom is like, "Oh, look who dropped in," and it's a girl, and like they're trying to set him up, and then before that she's like, "Oh, why don't you go like pray, and then we're gonna eat ice cream," and then like there's like no communication, like where he doesn't even have to mention that he doesn't like believe in his faith anymore, and like the audience can like just tell like this man is struggling with what's going on in his family. There's already
mobile feed, not mobile.
Um,
And there's so much pressure on him to like
yeah
marry, especially like his brother and his wife are literally sitting across from
yeah
him. So he's like staring at the future that he's supposed to have.
And it's like this like constant clash, like even before Emily enters the picture we already see him like struggling with like the difference in the culture, and like how like he's not able to accept it. So I think that was like very clear, like that's, I feel like the mom and the family were like the major plot points that like stated the theme of the movie.
Yeah, no, I think familial pressure could definitely be a theme that you see throughout it. For me, the theme around the 5 minute mark that's started by the heckle is that there's multiple perspectives in every story, where you have like two characters viewing like a cheer as two different things. And I think with the family's various relationships, and how the other family views Kumail, I think that's what, for me, that's what the film is about. I don't know if anyone else that wants to go after the theme, but that's what my take was.
I mean,
feel
yeah,
like
like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I feel like the heckle, I think it contrasts nicely with how characters in the movie behave later on. The whole scene with the family, and then later on when he's talking to the people he knows and loves, I think that there is a very large overrunning theme of transparency and honesty throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's always a constant battle between Kumail trying to
not lying.
showcase himself to impress some people, and then the reality, and then it's I feel like the movie is commenting about presenting yourself to people and actually just being honest and getting to know them. I feel like, I don't know.
Almost
Which,
as if like they display that in an attempt to compensate everybody, you are compensating nobody. You're just being dishonest and you're just being a liar.
which Holly
Exactly.
Hunter who plays Beth, Emily's mother, is basically shown as the living embodiment of within the film.
Mhm.
I'm jumping ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
No,
that's
that was
actually like a good segue to so we talked about the theme, the opening image. We talked about setup.
His family.
So for me, there's two
Mhm.
main stories going on. There's the relationship, or kind of there's the relationship aspect of Kumail and Emily, and then there's the Emily is sick aspect, and that inciting incident doesn't come till much later. So I feel like there's two in this movie, arguably.
I'm gonna actually argue with that and say rather than having it be his relationship with Emily, it's his relationship with their parents. Are we talking about the two separate plot points thing or something different?
Yeah, no, you could also make that argument. But I feel like the sources of conflict are all centered around Emily, is why I see it, I guess, a little differently, but I think those are both valid. Because like this, I think the setup is there's the exposition is like is pretty quick with this with Show Don't Tell, I would say.
I feel like the movie was like setting up when we see like Kumail and Emily are finally together in a relationship, and how like he's tackling that, like he's happy there, but at the same time like it's a simultaneous like struggle that he has between that, like where he's happy and like he's being himself, and then he has to go back to his home and he has to see like all these women that his mom just brings home. And I feel like just like the little like two different like plot points like moving together was, I feel like it was just setting up like the idea of what like we're like moving on to, like we knew like this wasn't gonna go on forever, and like somehow it has to like end. And I feel like that's when the catalyst comes in, which was the breakup that they had when she finds the box of the pictures.
Ooh, that's an interesting idea, that the inciting incident is their breakup instead. You can the breakup is I like that, because the breakup is kind of what channels the rest of the movie, arguably. 10 minutes left. Shit. Sorry. Because soon after the breakup, you find out that she gets injured. That's the next time you see her, actually. And however, I think I still more agree with the heckle as the inciting incident, personally.
But like it could be applied. That's why like this even though like this beat sheet is very, very specific and it's very, very good, don't get me wrong, it also is like, how do you say it? It's very like, it can be applied
formulaic.
Yeah, it's very formulaic. It can be
I think that's the point of like why we watch the film, especially.
Like you could also apply the inciting incident as, oh, is it when she gets sick, or is it when she breaks up with him, or is it when
you could say one is plot point one and one's the inciting incident, one's plot point one, arguably. I think the debate is the fifth one, which is the character kind of going against what everyone else thinks. I think the debate is him debating what he should do with his life, with his family.
Like, I was thinking like, you know how like a debate when you think about it is like you would expect the main character to do something rebellious, like going against what he's supposed to do. But I feel like in this like in the movie especially, Kumail was literally just like trying to like get in terms with his culture and religion because he actually starts going out with those girls and like actually starts taking an interest in them because he realizes like it's sort of like him having this like realization and like he accepts the fact that he has to be like with his culture and like he has to marry within it, and it's just like it seems very different from like before because from the start he is a rebel, he's like against like going against it as much as he can, but at this point like the debate is like his inner struggle to like accept his culture.
Which is also something that's very much shown because almost for at least a good chunk of the film, we see his one person show, which he's talking about the history of Pakistan, and it's almost a facade. I remember seeing a thing like, okay, what's the point? Is it showing that he's in touch with his culture? And thinking back on it now, I'm starting to realize, no, the point is that he's kind of not.
Yeah,
He's
like
sort of trying to disconnect himself from it to a certain degree. And what's
It's a
Emily-
projection.
Emily probably said it best. I learned a lot about Pakistan. I didn't learn
about you.
about you.
Yes,
Yeah,
amazing
yeah.
line.
And I feel like this was just a way of him to cope and like just like I think through this show he was trying to like subconsciously trying himself to put in like himself in that position and be like, oh, this is my culture. But like I don't think as a person he was ready to accept that. And on a personal note, I really found it very like his show was really funny to me because like India, Pakistan are very similar and like sort of I could relate to the thing where he was like, this is our Christmas. We eat mithai. And I was like, oh, that is so personal.
And like I say like a lot. It's just so fascinating to watch him grapple with like his like because to his parents and to him it's so clear that their idea of the American dream is different. For him it's I want to pursue my passions, I want to like grow it at my own pace, I want to have a relationship with this girl, but to them it's more of like you have to sacrifice, like you have to sacrifice something because we sacrificed everything for you, kind of like. And like the American dream is debated, like, and so that could be another theme, like about the definition of the American dream.
Yeah.
You
And I
know,
was oh, go ahead, Georgie.
I think adding on to that, if I remember correctly, he then argues with her name was Emily, right? Do you guys remember the scene where he says, "I'm fighting a 1,000-year-old culture. You were bullied in high school." I
Yeah.
feel
He
like
just
it
dead
really
ass said
sets the
ugly.
stage.
He dead ass just said
Yeah,
ugly.
sorry.
I'm sorry. That's on me. That's on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I feel like that really sets the stage for that whole idea where he is trying to transcend a kind of, if I may say something controversial, he's trying to transcend from a more narrow-minded, closed way of thinking about things to a more holistic metropolitan culture, I would say. And that's really straining him and everybody around him, and he's trying to figure out how do I go about it.
Adding to that, I was thinking about like the feeling of diaspora, but at the same time, I feel like it's his parents that he's like thinking about, like the feeling of diaspora that his parents feel, but he's like taking that upon himself. He's like, and I also, another thing I felt was like generational trauma, just because his parents went through everything, they just expect to put that all on him and be like, you should do it too. And I feel like it's
Absolutely.
also just like how Ruth mentioned, like his brother and his wife is like right in front of him. So it's also like really like thing for him where he's like, oh, my own brother is already like accepting that. And it just like adds to the pressure. Like even the whole beard thing where it's like, why don't you grow a beard? And he's like, I don't want to. And it's like, it's those really small things that like just get to him. And just like it just shows like going back to the line, it's like, oh, I'm fighting 1,000-year-old culture. It's just like shows to like how pressure he feels in that
Yeah,
environment.
it's fundamentally ingrained into his growing up and his family. Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. I think about like I as a kid, I never like questioned my religion. I just like accepted it. But it makes me wonder I if my parents were more open, how I would have approached that.
Like
Yeah.
for
Very Fiddler on the Roof.
and yeah, I feel the same way. Like I'm Burmese, so like she's like next to India. She's nowhere near Pakistan. So I could relate to some aspects of it, but especially the whole like we let you do this, this, and this. So we're asking you to do that. And like before when I was a kid, I'm like, this makes perfect sense. Absolute logic. I'm gonna do it. But now that I'm older, I'm like, is that really how things should go? Like, is that
Well,
really like is that
I
really
think
what that
I
relates?
just think it's generational trauma. Like that's how I would put it. Like there's a lot of aspects to it. I just think that's just how the parents feel because they're immigrants. Anyways, I think this is a good place for us to move into Act Two of the movie.
Yeah, or more like we can cover the break into two and which
Mhm.
is or the what's it called, the point of no return. So
Yes.
what do you guys think that is?
Personally, I think it's
Mhm.
when he comes clean. When he comes clean to his parents that no, I haven't prayed in years. I am in love with a white woman.
I think that's too late
I
personally
think
because that's
yeah.
in the second half.
Mhm.
Well, this
I
I
think it's
think
gotta be
the phone call that he gets from his friend and is like, Emily's
yeah
in the hospital.
once he decides to stay with Emily.
Yeah. Like
Mhm.
when he
That's
goes in and he
I would
gets the
agree.
visitor pass.
because
I
that's
think
what changes the course of the movie. You could
Mhm.
even argue it's the parents like waving him over to the lunch table that solidifies that.
Also when he starts building that relationship with her parents.
Yeah, I think it's more his decision to just stay there, but yeah.
Mhm.
welcome back. We got work to do. Okay. Where did we leave off?
We
We
were
left
talking
off of
about
like yeah, sorry.
the
Yeah, the second
second
right.
act of the movie.
I want to say I know, was it Jacob and Sonvi that were saying that it was when Kamal got the call about Emily?
I said
Mhm.
that because I feel like
Yes.
that just like changed like the tone of the movie. I mean, yeah, if you watch the trailer,
No,
you know what's
absolutely.
gonna happen, but also like it just like led us into another story. Like it just
Oh,
delved into more of
absolutely. And
Emily's life and
that's where
Kumail's
that's
real
where
life.
the my issue with the marketing sort of came in. I remember hearing the transition and I was thinking, where the hell is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And
And I feel that was for me personally, I feel like that was a perfect point to like start the second act of the movie. And so yeah, from there it was just like a different struggle all on its own.
I think something that's pretty neat. If you look at if we want to move to midpoint, if you look at that, it similar to like the first 5 minutes, it's again him at another comedy club. And that's you also see that towards the very end. I feel like you can almost structure the pace of the film by what gigs he's done. And I think if the idea is that the movie poster moment is that I think this is the one where the parents kind of erupt, and that's one of the highest points of tension for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that was such a, oh my God. I
No, that
love
confrontation.
Beth. Yeah, I love Beth as the character she was, and it was just perfect. Like it was the perfect, like this movie sort of like for me ranges between like serious to like funny, but in the middle, like there's this awkward, just like everything is just awkward. And that just like felt like perfect awkward for Kumail and like even the viewers, because we were like, okay, like this just went, I did not expect to for it to like go there.
I,
Um,
I
it
think
also,
it's like my favorite part, kind of role to see Holly Hunter in is that like more like mama bear kind of thing. If
mhm.
like
Elastigirl.
Elastigirl and also
Elastigirl
Raising
awakens some
Arizona.
things, you know.
And like it's also like the first like because before that like we just know that Emily's parents are like not trying to interact with Kumail, and they're just like keeping their distance. And even though the dad warms up to him before, and this was the moment where the mom was just like, oh, why did you say that? And you know, this is the first time like the mom like stood up for him, and I felt like as much as it was awkward, it was also like coming from like some part where she actually cares about him, and that's why she like got like super mad and was like, I'm gonna fight you. And this is like the first step into their relationship, I would like to put it like that.
I feel like also when this whole meeting with the parents starts, and ever since after Kumail starts committing himself to Emily when she becomes sick, you have this marking of a point where his will is put to the test, because before he was just kind of winging it, living the single bachelor life, and now you have him actually committing to what he wants to do in life. And ever from then on, we get to see how he changes his mindset to change his life entirely.
He's like finally getting his foot in the world and deciding to like literally put his foot down and be like, this is what I want to do. This is the woman I want to be with.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is the choice I'm going to make.
Yeah. And like I remember Ruth, we were talking about it earlier, like the contrast between like his relationship with the two parents. Because when he was talking to the mom about like how she met the dad, and she was just like, oh yeah, they just got used to him. Like a lot of crappy dinners, but they just got used to him. But on the other hand, it was like if you like compare it to Kumail's life, that could like never happen. Like he couldn't just like bring Emily to like his home and be like, oh yeah, this is the girl, and like they wouldn't get used to her after a few crappy dinners. That's just like not how like that culture works. It's just like the difference. And
But like in the end, they did sort of get used to it because Kumail is on a better term.
I think
It took a while. It took a while.
it took a while.
I think the theme of how an arranged marriage works also plays an important role, because there's like kind of the idea of you being set up with someone you're not wanting to be is what also happens with the parents and Kumail at the start.
Like also the disconnect between him and his parents is like I saw that when Beth asks him like, what was the movie that your parents watched when they first met, and he was like, oh, I don't know. And it's just like it just goes to show like there's like there's a difference. Like he is like very disconnected to his own parents, but at the same time he's bonding with like Emily's parents way more. So it's just, and I also think like the whole like fun and games part of the movie was him trying to bond with the parents, and that again like for me ranges into like this weird sort of like dark comedy sort of place, because like they're becoming close to each other, but at the same time it's this like awkwardness between them. Like my favorite moment was when the dad Ray Romano goes like, so 9/11, I've always wanted to talk about that.
What was
And
the
I was
dad's
like,
name again? Does anyone remember?
That was Terry, played by
yeah,
Ray
Terry
Romano.
Ray Romano.
So guys,
We
I
lost
think this
17 of our best guys, and I'm
Yes.
No, it was
I thought it was a
19.
little
Yeah.
19.
19. They lost 19.
That was a
of their
great
best
line.
guys.
That was
I
the
thought it
whole
was a
time.
little funny, like personally.
Oh, it was
No, I
it
found
it
it
was
so
good.
funny. Yeah, but
But
like
guys,
that.
I think this whole part actually once again ties into this whole narrative of being transparent and truthful, because the reason he was able to connect with Emily's parents is because they weren't afraid to talk about the uncomfortable things, and they
Yeah.
didn't have these like they didn't have these preconceptions that they have these arbitrary rules to follow, and if they're broken, then it's done for. Like when his parents say that he's no longer their son, and then they end up giving him food for the road, it's like, yeah, he's still
Mhm.
their son, but they still feel like they have to follow these arbitrary rules, so they say he's not their son, you
Yeah.
know? And
Like,
that's why
It's
he
like
can
Yeah.
never really bond with his actual parents that
Mhm.
much because he doesn't they don't want to talk about the
yeah,
uncomfortable things.
yeah.
So he
Like
doesn't really know them.
that's what I was thinking, like going into like the whole generational trauma thing. And I just feel like it's a very common stereotype that is like, especially South Asians, like don't like to like, they're very closed off with their kids. I don't know how much of that is true. It's a very like common stereotype I see in movies. And that scene where like he does like in the end where like he's like, oh, you're still not our son, and like here's food for the road, and like text us when you get there. And I'm like, you clearly care about him. Like, why don't you just say I love you to him? Like that's all he
Yeah.
needs to
like,
hear.
it's also because their heart, like in a sense, a part of their heart is still in Pakistan, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh my God, if we were still in Pakistan, this wouldn't fly at all. I'd have to disown him, and then everybody would have to know. But
Yeah.
like, it's so clear that they like no when they hand over the mutton biryani, like
Yes.
I really started crying. Like this is the only movie like in this class that I've actually cried in because like yeah, I'm like, oh, she still loves him, and she made it with
Mhm.
extra potatoes.
I
Yeah,
think
and
in a
like
more general sense, it's like it's their sense of pride actually. It's not even
mhm.
like Pakistan per se. It's just that they feel like they can't show themselves in a different light to him because they're his parents and they've done so much for him. Yeah.
Exactly. And like that
Tough
moment
love.
where he just like asks the dad, he's like, "Oh, what was the movie that you guys watched?" And like it was just like him like trying to connect with his dad, being like, "Oh, I just never knew you guys like in the first place."
Okay.
And mhm.
Sorry, I'm gonna try to reel it back. After the midpoint, we have bad guys close in, which there's no
Oh
real
yeah.
Oh, there's a bad guy, Stills disease.
Yeah.
It was definitely the
Yeah.
It
disease.
was
The
the
disease was the
disease.
bad guy.
Like I feel like the bad guys close-in part was like when she does get worse and like the parents are trying to move her.
hmm And like when the parents
And
are arguing and he's not really allowed to
yeah.
contribute because legally speaking, like
Mm-mm.
he can't. And like and it's like everything is closing in. Like his parents are like inviting more women and they're like, oh my God, he's gonna be here
Mm-hmm.
any minute, guys. Trust me. And he breaks up with that other girl who I
The
think
other
is
girl.
Magic Girl.
I don't think they were
But
really together that much.
I mean, yeah, but like he for the first time I see him like actually like talking about his feelings to one of those girls. Like before, like he's always like, "Oh yeah, you're nice, la la la." Like I'm never gonna like take an interest in you. But for the first time, he actually opened up about like, "Oh yeah, like there's a reason why I won't be like interested, and you should like stop investing your time in this." And I mean, it does break her heart, but also like it's also like we mentioned, like him putting his foot down. It's like getting like he knows what he wants now. But also like my favorite part like of this beat sheet is the term dark night of the soul. It's so dramatic.
Let's
And
tie
I
that into
feel
the all is lost part, actually, I'm
yes,
thinking.
yes, yeah,
Um
yeah.
he reinvents himself, but at the same time he goes to this period where he practically loses everything. He loses
Mhm.
Emily temporarily. Thank God. I was worried she might have actually,
I
but
did. I thought she was gonna die.
Well,
I'm not
I
gonna.
mean,
uh
if
he
I
loses
hadn't
Emily.
known,
He loses
like
his
if I
parents'
I don't know. I
trust.
feel like if for me, I just kind of was like figuring if she dies, there's no movie. That was my take.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Emily's parents don't trust him, but then he does all of that to reinvent himself. And sorry, go on.
I was just thinking another point was like all is lost would be when he like actually like confronts his parents. Like he's like, "Oh, I don't pray and I am in love with someone else." And like the point where
Well, when
his
they kick it, yeah, is that do they kick him out before
yeah,
or after that?
like the no, that's when the mom is like, "Oh, I don't have a son anymore," and she just walks off. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's like because already so much like shit is happening in his life, and like the mom just like literally says nothing. She just looks at him and goes like, "I don't have a son, like you're not my son," and she just walks away. And I don't know. I can't imagine how that must feel as a person, like just like being disowned by a mom. That must be very tough.
Yeah, and I think um him kind of losing being with his family is what catalyzes his redemption arc with the other family.
Mhm.
Also, the fast food scene was hilarious. Forgot to say
Oh,
that. I feel like
yeah.
that's also like another like
glorious.
facet
Bro,
of
isn't
like
that guy in like Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like all is lost. Like I feel like
Mhm.
that fast food scene where he's just like eating a sad little burger in his car and being like,
Well,
just give me 4 slices of cheese. I'm a human being. And then he has to do his comedy routine and he
mhm.
completely bombs the audition
Yeah.
that he's been waiting for because
I
of
would call that Dark Night of the Soul because it's literally, I don't know, it just makes sense. Like it's at night and he just bombs it and he's just like having a tough time.
yeah.
Sorry, I
I
interrupted you.
agree.
Continue.
I'm just gonna put you down for 4 cheeseburgers. Okay.
He also got 4 fries with it. Like, why?
Commitment at that point, you might as well just commit to it.
Yeah, just get
It's
4 meals. At this
Yeah.
point, just get
Because
4 meals.
at that point, it doesn't matter anymore. He's just trying to fulfill his soul. So it's like, yeah,
Mm.
I want those 4 fries. I don't even care anymore.
Mm.
But
Like
to add on
apathy.
to it, I think that scene really highlighted. Besides, in the movie as you're watching it, you're thinking, yeah, this is his dark moment. But I'm thinking from the outside perspective, it's like when he was yelling at that guy whose job it was his first day.
Mhm.
It kind
Yeah.
of highlights that all the frustration that's happening. It's kind of like everybody's just going through their own things, and it's like his parents yelled at him, and now Kumail is yelling at the guy in the
Mhm.
fast food drive-through. I feel like it kind of highlights the psychological perspective that everybody has their own shit going on.
Yeah. And
Everyone's
I feel
going
like
through it.
that moment where like he's about to get on stage and he gets a call from Terry and like there's like this like high pitched ringing. I just feels like that was the epitome. Like that was like the point, like the lowest he could ever go. I was like, oh my god, like I personally felt so bad. I was like, oh my god, he's about to go on stage and like he was about to perform and like he literally is just getting news of like his girlfriend like getting like taking a turn for the worse. And when he starts like bombing, like he bombs the whole thing, and he starts sobbing on stage, I was like, this like there's nothing, like it could not get worse. But then the next day he gets a text like come to the hospital. I was like, no, it just cannot like it cannot
You know,
go bad as that.
And
it
then
cannot get worse, but at the same time, kind of a it's also a kind of liberation, because once he bombs that, it's like there is nothing that could get worse, and I feel like there's some
Mhm.
kind of consolation in this. You can't go any lower.
That's true.
That's the turning
And
point.
I think it did get worse because it got better. That
So
sounds dumb. Let me
Expand on that.
explain. Let me explain. When imagine you're going to a party, there's a pothole and traffic, something, but then you get an email that, hey, it's okay, the party's been delayed. And so it's all the time you've taken, you're able to make it there. And then you find out as soon as you get there, yeah, it turns out we had to cancel the party. That's what it is. That's what I think happened essentially.
Also,
So I think it got worse because it got better.
No, I
So
don't
it got your
think
hopes up, and then it sets down for when he actually talks to Emily again.
yeah.
like I think like he's completely learned his lesson in a sense that he's like, I have to be honest with her and I have to be willing to do all of this. And I feel like the growth he's had over those few weeks, like let him take that better because his end game wasn't to get back with Emily. It
No,
was,
absolutely not.
yeah,
Just
the end game
still.
was to
Jack,
make sure she was alive and breathing.
I think, Jack, when Emily, because she wakes up from the coma and she doesn't want to get back with him, I think it's crucial to see that in that moment he's not necessarily completely defeated, but he kind of concedes and moves on with his life, while Emily starts realizing the things he has done for her, kind of.
Oh, I'm not.
So I feel like it doesn't.
I should clarify that I'm not talking like the part. I'm talking the initial. She's back and alive, where she's drugged up and just brutally honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I felt like that was like the start of Act 3, like
Yes,
her coming
absolutely.
back. Yeah.
Like
Yeah, you
when
got a
like
good
Bo
point.
Burnham and
Yeah.
I don't remember their actual names.
AD. Yeah.
Like that's when they invite him, like, hey, we should go to New York.
They don't invite him,
Yeah.
they tell
See,
him.
that's interesting.
They're like,
You
you're
could-
coming with us.
You could make the argument that Act 3 isn't till what I don't know, maybe when she comes to the play or something, because like that it's a long stretch. You still have a lot of movie left. If that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think when she comes to the play is more of a finale type of thing.
There's more of a
I-
what?
I think it's more of a finale when she attends this play. If you're talking about the very end,
Yeah.
that is.
Like there's
I don't
also
know. That's my take on it.
But yeah, like I think what we talked about earlier is just like the last act felt like longer than it should have been. So like when like Emily came back, like when Emily like recovered and she was like awake again, I feel like that's when I thought, oh yeah, so like I think we got a solid 5 more minutes into the movie. Like she's gonna forgive him and that's where it's gonna end. But like it like went on for a while. Like
Mhm.
I feel,
Like-
but like that was, yeah.
Finding his own peace was the true victory in a sense. Like his older brother, I will never get over how the fact that his older brother was like, oh, I liked it. I liked your one-man show. It was good.
It was good.
It was good. Don't worry.
I do want to say, it seemed like the one-man show did unironically get better,
Mm-hmm. I agree.
which I count that as a
and
small victory.
like also I feel like Act 3 wouldn't just like be her waking up, but also at the same time like CJ and I don't remember her name, but AD like
Mary.
coming, yeah, Mary, thank you. CJ and Mary walking up to Kumail being like, you're moving with us. And so like the idea of him changing his like life from there on was just like you're like literally like we're moving with his character. Like second act was like him trying to own up to who he is, and third act 3 is like him taking actual control now that Emily's better. Like he's actually gonna change his life and like walk away and make something of him. And that's also the scene where he goes back to his parents and he's like, you cannot disown me, I am your son. That was a really good scene, and I feel like it was really, really powerful.
How he voted not to disown him, not to keep
Yes.
himself
Very
out of the
bold.
Man was
family.
technically right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like I for a moment, like I had a moment of hope where I was like, oh, maybe the mom is actually gonna talk to him then. But when she didn't, I was just like, okay, yeah, I see
Checks
where
out.
they're coming from.
I wasn't
Yeah.
surprised. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, she ain't talking to
Yeah,
him
it's
for
like,
like
yeah, I
months.
mean, especially after that sort of stunt. Like, that was
Mhm.
gutsy.
Yeah.
But like she
Also-
did look at him
Hmm.
in the end, like in the car, like you could see her like take a little glance and then
Yeah.
like, keep on glancing forward because she's still thinking of her baby.
And I feel like because I don't, can we say like the finale would be like him leaving and like saying goodbye to his roommate and his dad shows up, and then I feel like
I count any saying goodbye to Chris as a finale.
Okay.
yeah.
Maybe
I
And-
can
just
see
like
where you
Chris.
guys are coming from.
Yeah. And I feel like the final image where it's like full circle, we're back to where we first saw him on the stage, like trying to make the same bad joke about cheese.
No, he actually made wasn't it a better joke? Like, oh, for like my people, it's doctor, lawyer,
Yes.
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 Comedian.
Yes.
all the way
Lawyer,
at the
no,
bottom.
doctor,
other jobs,
engineer,
ISIS,
lawyer,
and then comedian.
everything else,
Yeah.
ISIS, comedian. And I'm
Yes.
like, he kind of ate that up.
No, that was hilarious.
That was
Mhm.
actually really funny.
Yeah, no.
Well,
It's did you guys see the punchline coming, even though this is like totally off topic? Because like as soon as he started going down a list, I was
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
okay,
I
cool.
did not.
Oh,
I did not
yes.
see. I should have seen the ISIS line coming. I did not see
Yeah.
that, but I did see
I didn't
comedian
either.
being at the bottom.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
that's
sort of would have been
I feel
comedian
like
than ISIS, but okay, ISIS then comedian. Yeah, that checks out.
it's like and that and then
Off the
at
record, that
end,
checks out. By the
yeah.
way, off the record.
And like in the end, when like the heckle comes back, and I was just like, okay, yeah, this just makes me happy. And like that was like the final image for me, like him being like, excuse me, you're heckling a comedian, it's not whatever. And
Yeah, did you guys know there's multiple ways to heckle?
Should we end
No,
on
I did not.
I did not
full
either.
circle. We did it. We did it.
They
Yes.
got back right from where they started from, and it was so sweet. It
But-
was so cute.
But yeah, guys, in the finale, in that shot, we see the character go through the movie. He's now like self-actualized. He is
Mhm.
himself, his fullest, truest self.
Yeah.
And it comes full circle. And I think she sees that. Emily sees that. And she goes for
Mhm.
it again because she realizes maybe he has changed.
Yeah, like I feel like we like as audience also went through a journey with him, like, and it wasn't like going back to like it was like shown and not told, like we experienced whatever he went through, like with everything, and it just like it felt good, like seeing him again on the stage in the final image, and like Emily being there was like the perfect rom-com ending.
Absolutely.
It was so sweet.
the movie?
Um,
You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
was a sweet movie.
It was a sweet. Like he does get disowned, granted, but like it,
Sweet
like
and sour.
He gets disowned.
I'm a hopeless
Disowned.
optimist, so like I just feel like regardless, he's
It's a
still there.
real-
I
It's a
feel
real
like during
Sour
the
Patch Kids flavored movie.
Starts off sour and sweet.
What?
like
What does that
during the
mean?
credits.
Well, we can only have one sponsor at a time, okay? Cereal 1st
Hey,
But,
I'm gonna
like,
get my
you're-
competition in here.
I'm watching you.
All right, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a good place
I can
to
like cut it early.
close it up. Well, thank you guys as per usual. Big fun. Really
Only one
enjoyed
guy
this.
seeing this, Jack.
I was referring to you guys.
It was us.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jeez, I can't compliment the people that do a project with me. Okay, fine, whatever. Just screw you all then. No,
No, it
Um,
was clearly all you, Jack.
no,
Because you're so wonderful.
me and my massive ego are the one thing that's keeping this afloat.
Great job, me.
Yes, thank God for me, and I guess you all are here too. And I guess we'll see if we do this again. We'll see you next time. We'll actually have cereal, and we'll leave you
Yes.
with this closing question: what should be the next brand that takes over our show?
What?
Bye, Al.
importantly, which one?
I know
When is
you,
it
I
going to
trust
be
you'll
about?
make the right choice.
Yes, when is it going to be? Oh,
When am I going to introduce the movie? Which minority will be represented next?
White people.
Don't touch that dial, folks.
we'll see you next time on Cinema Toast Crunch.
Bye. How do I end the recording?
No, I do.
Oh.